Hello everyone, welcome to Saturday, not Friday's warm-up, and today we're doing the Moyse number 4 from the 24 Little Melodic Studies. So if you have that book, I would suggest getting that out, and also that the handouts for today are now ready to download. So if you look on rsmusic.net/flute-warm-ups, you can find a little PDF icon for today, which is the 26th of June, and you can download the handouts for today. So, as always, just let me know if you're watching live and say hello and where you're from, and that's a nice thing just to have in the chat there, and feel free to say hello to your fellow warmer-uppers. So, yeah, so number 4, we're in D minor now, so we've come from F major, very happy number 3, and this one's quite solemn and dark, I would say, in its character, and we want to have that in mind when with the type of sound that we want to create. So as always, I like to do the skeleton first, but really with attention to the the bell-like quality that we need for bringing out the most important notes, and also to the tone color. In the low register, it's very easy to play with quite a hollow, not very projecting sound. It can be very woolly. So, hi John. So we want to aim to get something that's a little bit more projecting, but not necessarily just loud, but in the color, something a little dark. So we're going to work on that a bit. We're going to work a little bit on the rhythm, just to make sure that those quavers or eighth notes fall in exactly the right place. Sometimes the rhythm on this one can get a little bit affected. Also the stress of the meter, so making sure that we're in 3 again. And we're going to spend quite a bit of time on the octave variation. And this is because it's probably the most difficult part of this number 4. And so I think some tips on octaves and intervals will be helpful. And I've written some of my own variations, which are even harder. So we can explore those as well, and just some food for thought, and you can do your own variations if you like to. So yeah, that's the plan for today. So let's start with the skeleton. So if you look in the handout, I've circled the notes of number 4 melody that I believe are the skeleton, which is basically the first note of each bar. So let's do those. We'll hold them for 3 and a little diminuendo on each one, and try to connect to the next note, so not too many gaps in the sound. Okay, so remember your da-oo shape. So beginning, ah-oo, and finish so it doesn't go flat. Let's try. Good. Okay, and with the vibrato, you can imitate the quality of a bell. So imagine hitting quite a big bell in a church or something. Boom, and you get this reverberation. So you can have a little bit more vibrato at the beginning and let it die away towards the end of the diminuendo. And that helps create this sort of bell tone quality. Of the two bells in the first two bars, we see that it's all under D minor. And so the more important one is actually the D, where you set up the harmony, and the A is less important. So if you can think maybe a big bell on the bass line, and that carries through to the third bar where we have a step higher, E, and then in the fifth bar, we have F. So we've got that progression. That last bell. So those are the ones that we really want to hear, but on the top, there's just a small bell as well. So we have the two bells, but they're not equal, I would say. So that's something to just think about. Getting the quality of the richness in the sound without overblowing for the low register. A good exercise that I learned with Wib was what he called the Shakahatchee Exercise, and this is something that's in my book. And so some of you probably, if you study with me, then you know this exercise. So you take just the body of the flute, and you put it here where you would normally put your head joint. And it's like blowing over a bottle. See if you can get a sound. And you might want to start way up here. And open up the angle of on the hole there. And we're just aiming for that back edge. And we're also thinking about corners being nice and released, not tight. If we're too tight, you can blow all you like and it won't give you the sound. Okay, so this is really good for low register. And so let's try just getting a sound first on it. If you finger an A on your flute. So you can see my lips come down a little bit like that and nice and released in the jaw. But the airspeed also has to be nice and fast. So if you blow too slow, you just get windy sounds. Okay, so we want that accuracy and speed of air right at the back edge. And then like that. So let's try, if you can get the sound like this, try it like with the Shakahatchee. We'll do the bells, the first note of each bar again, but as a Shakahatchee. If you can't get it yet, go back to putting your head joint back on and you can try again later. Okay, so you'll hear that the pitches of those notes are very different to what it would be with the head joint, and that's normal. So don't worry about that. Now you put the head joint back on and see if that has helped you develop the sound in its richness for your low notes. So for me, it feels already a lot easier, and I don't have to work so hard. Another thing that you can think about is playing with a very open sound, so very sort of souffle, no harmonics in the sound. Something really slow air, just to get the space and openness of the inside of the mouth and the cavities there, and then try to think about getting a little bit more lead in the pencil, a little bit more focus through that. So you're not starting from a place of tension, but you're starting very released, and then you just sort of fine tune the sound to get something a little bit more focused. So I don't know if you can hear it over the YouTube, but so I'm just thinking quite open in the mouth, very sort of like as if you're fogging up a mirror. But that's not what we want. And then you gradually get that more focused just by focusing the sound, increasing the airspeed, bringing the lips slightly closer together. And then you'll find where that sound really rings and nicely in tune as well. So that's my approach to, very quickly, to low notes. I would do a little Shakahatchee and making sure that the cavities and everything are nice and open, and then finding the direction and the speed of air that really gets those notes ringing nicely. Okay, so next one is to work a little bit on the rhythm, and we're going to fill in the dotted crotchet or quarter note with quavers or eighth notes. So it's just basically a semitone below each note. So it's for the first one. Just go just a semitone below. So let's try the whole study like that. And then it's just a way of subdividing the rhythm, and it will help you when we play it back as written. So semitone below. Good, and as you're doing that, try to think of the diminuendo through those three. Dee-da-dum-bum-bum. And so we get this 1 and 2 and 3. So not equal beats, but much more on the first beat and released on the second and third. Good, now we'll sing and play exactly what we just did. So the dee da dum bum bum, dee da dum bum bum. Sing all of that, but if you like, just finger the notes of the melody. So you're just going to finger what's written in Moyse's studies, but sing the semitone below as well. So it would be. So I'm singing what we just did, but playing the study as written. So let's try that together. Okay, good. Now let's just play that through as written in Moyse's book, and see how that all of those things have now helped develop the sound and the phrasing. Ready, let's go. Good, all right. Now, the articulation is another interesting point with this one, because we've got the slur and we've got the staccato dots. So a dot under a slur, often you can think of that as expressive tonguing, or some people think of it as lure or long tonguing, whatever you like, but definitely not cut short. So there's this connection of the air, as if it was slurred, but each note has a nice clear beginning as well. So we often write that as well for bell tones, for practicing that, and we saw that in number 1 and 2, same kind of thing. So I would practice it slurred first, just to get that connection, and then add in the tonguing. And also, if you want to work on really what's going on for each note, practice it first as a minim or a half note, then go down to a crotchet, and then down to a quaver, and then semiquaver, and practice it with your scales like Tafna and Gobert. So as an example, if we take D minor and do minims, bum, 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 bum. Just try a little bit of the scale. We'll just do the first few measures as minims, okay? And that nice do, 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 nice bell tone quality, connecting the sound. Ready? Okay, so that's the minims. Let's go down to crotchet. So yum, bum, 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 bum. Ready, go. Okay, and then to quavers, keeping that connection that you had, so don't let it get suddenly dry and cut off. Dum, 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 dum. Think of dum or do, 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 something where the air is constantly going through those notes, and you're just starting each note nicely with the tip of the tongue. Okay, and then you can go into semiquavers. So let's try that. Okay, so you've always got this life in the sound. It's not vibrato, but it's a continuous air that's vibrant and expressive. So that's really why I think it's called expressive tonguing, because it's not like da 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 da, which has its own expression, like a bird or something. But for this study, we need this more connected Loure style of tonguing. So that's good to practice with your Tafanel and Goba. So I'll leave you to do that. Onwards to the octaves. So these are tricky, and I think Moyse in fact said if he rewrote the 24 studies, he would leave out the variation because it's too difficult. But just some things to think about with these octaves is that we want a nice diminuendo up to the top. And so often when we want to go from a low to a high note, at the beginning when we study, we think just blow more, but that will just create a louder top note. So it's just pushed for the high note, which, you know, sometimes high notes do need to be louder, but here we want them to be softer. So we have to do something different than just blowing more. It's just going to be blowing faster air and guiding it quite nice and high. So ow, ow, ow. So if we did that slowly, really think about your low note as a nice springboard to get you to the top note and connect through. So imagine you've got all the notes in between from D up to the next D. So like a glissando. So you've got all of those, and each one is slightly softer than the previous one. Obviously, you don't need to wiggle your fingers, but just imagine that, and it might help you connect up to the top note. So springboard, boom, and you should just be able to float out that top note if you lift the airstream up with your lower lip. So let's try that slowly. So it's really using that technique that we had earlier with the bells. So each bass note. We want to get a nice springy sound on the bottom, and then the top note just comes out. The connection also between the octave and then the next bass note. Try not to cut there. Don't stop the air there. So a good way to practice that is to put the slur from the top note down to the next bass note. So it's dum, dee, dee, So slur from the top note down. So let's try a little bit of that. Okay, so that's one way to do it. When you do that way, you could also do the top note as a P, and so you've got the embouchure formed just nicely for a soft note. So each one P on the top, if you're doing that sort of reverse slurring. Okay, so that's how I would approach that one. Obviously, they need to be in tune octave, so just finding how far you have to go with the lower lip is quite important. You don't want to overshoot necessarily. Otherwise you get sharp one, but often it's going to be flat on the octave. So nice and low for the low note when it's louder, and then gradually lift. You might want to just stay on one note and practice that on the D, and then carry on as you get more comfortable. Little extension on those then. So if that's hard enough, and I find that hard enough as well, but just to give you a little bit more things to practice, you could try a triplet version where you re-articulate the octave. So you find where that octave is, and then good training is to practice playing that note soft with a t as well, tongue. So it would be. See, my top A, it was a little bit too slow on the re-articulated. So it helps you just remember where that note is. Okay, so you could practice that version as well. If we've got time, we can see. Yeah, let's just do that actually. So we'll do the first half of the variation as triplets. So 2 slurred and 1 tongued for the last note. Okay, good. And one more variation. No, there's 2 more. This next one is harmonics above an octave. So it's stretching those muscles a little bit more. So instead of just doing the simple octave, it's going to be the 3rd harmonic. So that's quite a tricky one, and to get that soft as well. So try not to overblow for the harmonic. So let's just do that actually on D, E flat, E, F. Let's just practice that without the melody first. Okay, then E flat. And F. Okay, so that's also trying to skip out the octave between that is quite tricky. So it's placing your air quite well. It's a good exercise. Then if you go back to the octaves, you'll find out they're a lot easier. They just sort of fall into place after doing the 3rd harmonic ones. So do a little bit of that one, not too much because it's quite strenuous. And and then go back to the octaves, and it should feel easier. And the last little variation that I thought of was to do it the opposite way, which we kind of did with the opposite slurs, but this time high note louder, soft note for the low note. So it's still the same movement, but we're just going the opposite direction. So it's da, 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 but dropping the octave. So you can try that one as well. So watch this back and then practice in your own time all of those, and just let me know how you get on, if it's helped you with this study. If anybody has any questions at this point as well, just pop something in the chat. Or if you have questions later on, just leave a comment and I can get back to you. Next week, I think, will also be a Saturday warm-up, but I think it definitely will be. So from now on, it's going to be on Saturdays. And if that works better for some people, that's great. Otherwise, please do just keep tuning in when you can. And I look forward to seeing you next time.